A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome back, students. I hope you enjoyed your week. This is our third lecture. We started with discussing the outline of this subject, and then our second topic was kind of introductory uh, with the heading "Why research?" or "Why should we actually be worried about research methodology?" Then our second topic was classification of research, in which we looked at various types of research and broadly how to conduct them. Today we'll be looking at literature review and ethics. So first we'll look at literature review and then at ethics in research. And for this chapter or module or session, you'll have to read chapter 5 of Newman, 7 edition, then chapter 1 of Collis and Hussey, actually section 1.2, and another few things that are not covered in any of the books that we are following, but you'll find them in the slides or in the discussions that we'll have today. Uh, I would like to remind you that all this material, it's available on our group. So before looking at literature review, let's just situate at what point you need to read literature. If you look at this diagram, uh, you'll see that you start your research by finding the problem or defining the topic. Then you kind of narrow down the problem into a specific researchable topic, and right after that, there's a requirement to justify that your topic is valid. It's good enough for research. That is when you must start reading the literature. Actually, for purely theoretical researches, even the first step starts after you read some literature and you find that there's some gap in the literature that you need to address, or maybe you've read a seminal paper, and at the end of the paper the author has suggested a few areas for future research, and that gives you the idea for your topic. So literature could really be the starting point of your research, but if it is not, then at least you would have to start reading literature when you have put your topic in some shape, and now you are required to justify, to prove that it's a good topic. If you look at the diagram, it actually outlines various steps that one would have to go through when conducting an empirical research. You would see that literature actually comes on virtually every group of steps of any research. You start with literature, then you read literature to justify your topic, then you read it to refine your topic to make it more researchable, measurable. Then maybe you read literature to operationalize the terms, to define them clearly, to define their measurements clearly. Then when you're looking at the methodology that you'll use to conduct your research, probably you'll have to read literature to see what other people, what they did when they were doing similar researches, and so on. You'll actually need to read literature at almost every step of your research. So literature is really important, and it's therefore important that we actually learn how we should conduct the literature review. So this overall this slide that you are seeing, this diagram will actually go through it several more times during our course. So don't worry about it. I just wanted to show you how you contextualize literature review in the overall frame of research. Now, why do you do literature review? Well, there are many reasons, but the few that I have outlined, let's look at them. The first is that you have to demonstrate a familiarity with the body of knowledge and establish credibility. So you are researching a topic. Uh, you would be only taken seriously if you prove to your professor or other stakeholders that you know that topic. And how would you demonstrate that you know it uh, only after you read about it and you read about what others have done about that topic. The review, it tells the reader that the researcher knows the research in an area and knows the major issues. A good review increases the reader's confidence in the researcher's professional competence, ability, and background about that topic. So it really helps you demonstrate familiarity with whatever you're going to research. Then you have to show the path of prior research and how a current project is linked to it. Basically, you'll have to contextualize your work in whatever has been done on that topic previously. A review outlines the direction of research on a question and shows the development of knowledge that was made by various researchers in their works. So basically, the idea is that you build on the knowledge that has been developed by the world by other researchers, and you're not actually trying to reinvent a wheel that has been made by so many people already, actually refined by them to a very good position. So you only need to increase that knowledge that the world already has instead of really redoing it. A good review would place a research project in a context and demonstrate its relevance by making connections to the larger body of knowledge. Then you'll have to integrate and summarize what is known in an area. That is the goal of literature review. A review pulls together and synthesizes different results. A good review would point out areas in which prior studies agree, disagree, and if there are any major questions remaining, you'll like to outline them. Your review would collect what is known up to a point in time and indicate the direction for future research. So again, basically, in the third step, you are trying to establish that you know about your topic. You've put all the things together. You've kind of summarized them, and now that you propose your topic, it would be kind of building on that knowledge. And finally, uh, to learn from others and to stimulate new ideas, it is kind of a hallmark of a student. A review tells what others have found so that a researcher can benefit from the efforts of others. So the idea of learning from others is kind of broad. A good review would identify blind areas that were maybe left behind by other researchers, or maybe they were identified by them. And maybe you could suggest hypotheses for replication. Somebody did a research in maybe Norway, and you just want to do the exact research, that exact research in Pakistan. That would be a way of learning from them. Maybe your results would be similar to them. Maybe your results would be divergent. In any case, it would be new knowledge. You could divulge procedures, techniques, research designs that are worth copying from others so that you can focus on hypotheses and gain new insights. Remember, you have to actually cite uh, the studies from which you are copying, and that way it becomes a replication research. You cannot actually uh, use uh, their maybe output or their research designs or techniques without citing them. That would be covered in the ethics part that we'll discuss later today. So these are the four fundamental goals of literature review, which basically focus on knowing about the topic before researching it. All right, so now we move on to uh, types of literature review. There are many types of literature review, and many authors they kind of use various names or titles for a particular type. But the ones that we use here, maybe you'll find them with some other name somewhere else, but uh, they would mean the same thing, and we'll quickly discuss what each of these mean and imply. The first one is context review. Uh, Actually, their meaning is hidden in their name. So the context review would actually mean contextualizing a research. Usually, this review appears at the beginning of a research report, and it introduces the study by situating it within a broader framework and showing how it continues or builds on developing line of thought or study. It is a common type of review. Authors link a specific study to a larger body of knowledge. Basically, you establish the context of your work by reading works of other people and placing your study at the appropriate place within the overall collection of knowledge. The second is historical review. Again, it's in the name. It's a specialized review where you trace an issue over time. You kind of research its history. That's why it's called historical review. It can be merged with a theoretical or methodological review that we'll soon see what that means to show how a concept, theory, or research method develops over time. So historical means tracing something over time. Then is the integrative review. Again, the meaning is in the name. Integration means combining things together. It's again a common type of review in which the author presents and summarizes the current state of knowledge on a particular topic. It highlights agreements and disagreements on various issues in that particular topic. This review is often combined with a context review that we looked at earlier, or it may be published as an independent article as a service to other researchers. Imagine you find a paper that kind of collects the entire literature that has been written on a particular topic. Imagine if that is your topic, how easy it would be for you to move on. You won't have to read much, and this single paper would kind of give you a comprehensive picture on that topic. Sometimes we call this a meta analysis. Uh, what exactly a meta analysis is, we will quickly look at it in next slide. So, a type of integrative review is called methodological review, in which you only integrate the methodologies used by various researchers when researching a particular kind of topics. It's a specialized type of integrative review. And what you would do is you would compare and evaluate the relative methodological strengths of various studies. And you would actually demonstrate or show how different methodologies account for different results. And when I say different methodologies, it could be different research designs, it could be different samples, it could be different measures of variables. So the idea is to review the methodologies used by other researchers on a particular set of topics or maybe a single topic. Then is the self-study review. What is a self-study review? It is usually a student's work in which the student demonstrates his or her familiarity with the subject area, and usually it would be a part of an educational program or a course requirement. So if since you people have already shared your research topics with me, if I tell you to read literature about your topics, that would be kind of a self-study review. And the last one is theoretical review. It is again a specialized review in which the author presents several theories or concepts focused on the same topic and compare them on the basis of assumptions, logical consistency, and scope of explanation. One topic, particular research question can actually involve many theories. For example, if you are studying competitiveness among firms or businesses, maybe theory of constraints is relevant, maybe there are many other theories which could be relevant. So what you do is uh, you compare them and you demonstrate how in your understanding they relate to your topic. So we've outlined only 5 types of literature review, but there are many others, and you'll find even these fives or their subtypes with other names too. But there are a few that I would like to mention. For example, one of the reviews is called argumentative review. The idea of argumentative review is that you examine literature selectively, in order to support or refute an argument that is already established in literature. The basic idea is to have a contrarian viewpoint on a particular topic which is already established in literature. Well, while it is a very important form of discourse, it is important to understand that it can produce the problems of bias because you are studying literature selectively. And it is especially biased if you start making summary claims that one would make on systematic reviews. So while argumentative review is good, it is an important form of discourse. It establishes a contrarian review. You should take it with a pinch of salt because it is usually done with a kind of bias. And finally, there are two types, or maybe not exactly types of literature review, but you would find them in the literature. One is systematic review, and one is meta-analysis. We'll look at these two in the next few slides. So first, literature meta-analysis. So as we discussed in the type integrative review on the last slide, the idea of meta-analysis is that you collect all possible studies on a specific topic and you develop a consistent criteria for screening the studies, whether they are relevant to your topic or not. Then maybe you can kind of undertake a quality control kind of activity in which you would maybe say that I'll consider only those studies that were published in a particular set of journals or something. Then you identify and record relevant information for each study and then synthesize and analyze the information into broad findings. At the end, you would draw summary conclusions, or maybe you won't draw conclusions. Your aim was just to collect the knowledge gathered in all those papers. So the idea of meta-analysis is that you collect all the available literature on a particular topic. As I said, it is a great service for the research community because imagine you are researching a topic and you find a paper, a single paper that has all the literature available on that topic. How good would that be? It would save you maybe many months. So literature meta-analysis is researching, comprehensively researching literature on a particular topic and publishing it. Out of my experience, I can tell you that almost all major topics have meta studies available in some journal or maybe in some book. So what you need to do is you need to look for those meta analyses for your topic. Okay, so before moving on to systematic review, let's look at what sources you have for literature. First of all, you need to understand that we use these terms called primary literature review and secondary literature review, or primary sources and secondary sources. So the idea of primary source is that you yourself have researched that source and you have drawn some conclusions or findings and you are presenting them. That is called primary research or primary sources. And secondary research or secondary sources is the sources that were done by somebody else. You just read them and you are presenting them. So primary means kind of your own. Secondary means you have searched them, you found them in journals or periodicals or whatever, and you just presented them. So out of the many types of sources that we have for literature, some are listed, for example, periodicals, scholarly journals, books, dissertations, global government documents, policy reports, and conferences, etc. But not all of them are equal. We'll later in this lecture we'll discuss some of them, but uh, you must understand that some sources are scholarly sources, others are for a broader range of audience, not only for scholarly audience. For example, newspaper could actually be a source of literature, but maybe if you cite a newspaper in your paper, the scientific community may not be very inclined to believe in you. But if you cite a journal published in maybe ProQuest or elsewhere, or a really good journal in a really good database, the scientific community would readily accept your review, your claims, and maybe accept your paper for publishing. Okay, so moving on, we'll look at some citation formats for papers. When you cite a particular paper in your thesis or your report, you have to use one of the many styles available, and mm, uh, if you see the list on this slide, on the top of it you would see MLA, which is Modern Language Association. They've outlined a particular style in which you name the author by citing his or her last name first and then the initials of his or her first name. Then you write the title of their publication in inverted commas, ending at a full stop. Then you write the name of the journal, its issue, the year it was published, and the pages of the journal on which this particular paper was published. This is MLA style. Another style is APA style, or American Psychological Association style, in which you name the authors first, then in parentheses you list the year in which the paper was published, then the title of the paper without inverted commas, then name of the journal, its volume and issue, and the pages on which it was published, and so on. So besides these two, there are many other styles such as the Chicago style, the Harvard style, the Vancouver style, and there's so many others as well. So these were the styles for papers. There are citation formats or styles for books, for dissertations, etc. But the easiest way to find the exact way of citing a paper is to go to scholar.google.com, then write the title of the paper or title of the author, and you would see the list. If you've entered the author, you would see all the papers by that author. If you click the paper, you'll see a double inverted comma besides that paper. If you click it, it will give you all the styles in which it could be cited, and you could copy that citation. These one, two, three, and three slides that you see, they are actually screenshots from scholar.google.com. So it is very useful when you are writing the references for your own paper. All you need to do is go to scholar.google.com, look for the paper, click on the inverted commas link, and it will give you already formatted lists of citations. Okay, so we looked at integrative or meta-analysis earlier. Now we'll quickly discuss what a systematic literature review is. Uh, the idea of actually systematic literature review is not a different type of literature review. It is just the concept is doing your literature review systematically. So just like the idea of defining your research topic, you should begin a literature review with a clearly defined, well-focused research question and a plan. A good review topic should be in the form of a research question. For example, a crime in Islamabad is much too broad a topic. A more appropriate topic would be, uh, does economic inequality produce crime rates across nations? So The idea is that from a broad, unresearchable topic, you are moving towards a specific researchable topic. The variables of that topic can be measured in some empirical way. So once you've defined and refined your topic, you need to design a search. Uh, what type of reviews would you conduct? What would be the extensiveness of those reviews, and what type of materials would you use? You have to be careful with it, systematic with it, and organized with it. Once you have designed your search, you need to locate those reports that you've decided to locate. It could be articles, it could be books, it could be edited books, PhD, MS thesis, dissertations, government documents, anything. So once you've done that, the next step would be that you would extract relevant data and assess its quality. If it is good enough by the standards that you've set earlier in the design search part, then you should analyze that data and combine that data to form a coherent literature review. So the idea of a systematic literature review, I'll quickly repeat and move on, is that you have to be systematic in your literature review. Systematic means you have to outline a process that you will follow for literature review, and each step of that process should be defendable logically. So that is a systematic literature review. It's not a new type of literature review. It is just conducting your literature review in a systematic manner. All right, so once you have identified a particular research article, how would you evaluate it? How would you read it? So, what the first thing you should do is you should look at the title and see if that relates to your research question. If it does, then read the abstract. The abstract would generally tell you uh, what problem this paper is addressing, what methodology the author has adopted to find the answers to the research questions, what are his or her broad results, what value this paper offers to you. Usually, there's a heading called value, and they'll tell you it would kind of tell you that why is this paper useful, and finally there would be future research proposals. What further research could be conducted in that topic. So if you look at the abstract, you should actually know a lot about that paper, and you should be able to decide whether you have to read it further or not. If you do decide to read it further, then read the introduction first, then skim through the entire paper. Skimming means not reading it in too much detail, but reading it quickly, and then move on to the conclusion. And it should be pretty clear to you whether this paper is useful for you or not. If you decide that it is useful for you, then you must take notes about it. And what do you need to know? Again, for a systematic literature review, you must decide formally what would you record. Would you record the research questions and how he found answers to them? Would you record the research methodology as well? Would you record the sampling method that they used? What was the size of samples that you used? So basically, uh, because when you're reading papers, the information quantity is overwhelming. There are millions and millions of published papers in different databases. So you must be very clear on what you would extract from a particular paper. You must have started understanding by now that if you extract too much, you will have an overwhelming amount of data which you may not be able to use further. So be smart about it. Uh, if you have to make an error, well, make the error of recording a little more than what you would need, because you can discard things easily, but if at the end of your research you realize that you needed more information when you did your literature review, it would be very difficult to go back and read all those papers. I'm quickly going to show you a sample recording of a paper done by one of my students. So if you look at this slide, This is a one-page summary of one paper. What this student has done is he's written the title in a box, then the author, then the journal in which it was published, then the abstract. It's not the complete abstract, but still it tells reader quickly what this paper aims to find out and what it has actually found out. Then what methods this paper has used, then major findings, and future research guide. So this is one example. Maybe you can have your own headings. You can have your own format of recording a particular literature, but you must have some format, and it would be a good idea if you get it approved from your supervisor, so that later, when a problem arises, you are both on the same page. Okay, so moving on. Last In the last class, we discussed uh, Google. One of the students said that he would find problems to, uh, well, solutions to problems or solutions to questions from Google. So we'll have a quick look at what are the advantages and disadvantages of using internet as a source of literature. Well, advantages are clear. It's easy, it's fast, it's cheap. It links connected sources. You look at one source and it would cite another, and you click it and you go to that source, and so on. Then it is a kind of democratizing effect. It provides a chance to everybody to to share their ideas on internet. And then the advantage is that it casts a very wide net. You with one writing one word in Google, you can literally uh, get a billion hits on that topic, and then, well, nobody would be able to read a billion sources, but you would get every possible source listed just by writing that word. But within these advantages, you can clearly see the problems as well. There is absolutely no quality control. Anybody can write on internet, and you'll never know whether it is authentic or not. Then mostly you won't find complete sources. There would be parts written in one place, another part in another place, even if it is authentic. So it becomes very time consuming because you wander from one page to another page. You came to internet to search for one thing, but since there were too many things, something else distracted you, and you're now looking at a totally different topic. And finally, it is very difficult to document. Why? Because you search today and you write in your paper that I retrieved this article from so and so website on so and so date. But when somebody is reading your paper and they look at the same source, maybe that website is no longer there. So it would be kind of unverifiable for them. And if something is unverifiable, it's not reliable, and your research would be rejected. So that is all I had for literature review. If you have any questions, you can get back to me on email or any other source, or you can actually discuss it with me in the next class. So we'll take a quick break, and after we return, we'll move on to ethics in research.